채널 젊은 달. 안녕하세요, 젊은 달입니다. 오늘 소개해드릴 분은 영화 킬러들의 도시, 세븐 사이코패스, 3빌보드를 찍은 마틴 맥도날 감독님입니다. 오늘도 인터뷰를 통해 감독님의 연출, 집필, 촬영에 관한 철학을 엿볼 수 있는 시간을 마련해 보았습니다. 영화란 무엇인가 마틴 맥도날, 지금 바로 함께 보시죠. 아일랜드 출신의 부모님을 두고 영국에서 태어난 마틴 맥도날 감독님의 작품들은 모두 짙은 드라마와 냉소적인 코미디가 언제나 공존하며 도덕적으로 모호한 캐릭터들과 그들의 익살스럽고 날카로운 대사들로 유명합니다.
Ray, don't! Fucking hell! Where the fuck did you come from?
I was behind the thing. What the fuck are you doing, Ray?
What the fuck are you doing?
Nothing.
Oh my god. You were gonna kill me.
Oh, you were gonna kill yourself?
What? I'm allowed to.
No, you're not.
사실 감독님은 영화를 찍기 이전부터 정말 아주 많이 유명했었는데요. 그는 연극 극작가로 90년대 혜성처럼 나타나서 1996년 그의 첫 연극인 더 뷰티 퀸 오브 리네인으로 그의 토니 어워즈와 로렌스 올리비에 어워즈에서 베스트 플레이 후보에 들기도 하고요. 그 다음 해 1997년에는 영국 웨스트엔드 4개의 극장에서 그의 작품들이 동시 공연되기도 하며 농담 아닌 농담으로 제21세기 셰익스피어라고 불렸습니다. 하지만 이런 그는 연극을 그닥 좋아하지 않았었다고 하는데요.
I always preferred films and even though I could never do them, I preferred novels and short stories. This is the last thing I wanted to do.
Films I was writing were complete crap. So then I tried other things like radio plays and even short stories to be made into short films or something. I guess they got progressively less crap. And then I tried my least favorite art form, plays. But I guess I learned so much writing all that crap out of me that by the age of about 23 or 24, when I started the plays, something kind of clicked.
I was always kind of good with dialogue, and I liked telling stories, and I liked characters. And I think as long as you've got those three, I think plays are the easiest thing to do. Because with films, I still find it hard to have like 100 scenes in a story, whereas plays is like you can cut it into 6 or 8 or whatever, and you can have dialogue that goes on for 8 pages, whereas in film it's like half a page if you're lucky.
I'd learnt enough about character and dialogue and plot that when I threw them all into a stage play, it seemed to work somehow. And it might have been because I had less respect for the medium. That it allowed me to kind of break open different ways of storytelling on stage, or have more interesting things happen on stage than the things I was seeing in London, which were pretty tiresome.
You wouldn't trade it in?
No, absolutely not. Probably the reason I started to write in the first place was a morbid fear of a 9-to-5 office job or something, which was probably all that was open to me as a young school leaver. Or just unemployment for ages. I was unemployed for like 3 or 5 years.
What did you do?
Read and write,
And how did you survive?
Just welfare kind of stuff, and took jobs in between,
이렇게 극작가로서 성공한 그가 2004년에 드디어 단편 영화를 찍는데요. 브랜든 글리슨 주연의 단편 영화 식스슈터로 그의 아카데미에서 무려 최우수 단편 영화상을 받습니다.
You only make a short film or usually to see if you can do it well, or to try and get something else done in lots of ways. You don't ever think about the Oscars. Even now it seems just weird, but good weird.
I'd like to stay with you longer, Mr. Donnelly, but we're awful busy.
Oh, you run off your feet. You're
2 cot deaths and a woman. Her son shot the poor head off her.
No. Is she alive or is she dead?
Oh, dead. She had no head left on her leg. I'll leave you to it.
I had no footing in film business, of course, but I got up the money or some people put in money to make this short film that I made. That was successful enough, and at the same time, the script of Bruges was ready.
이후로 4년 뒤에 찍은 장편 데뷔작 2008년작 킬러들의 도시, 다시 4년 뒤에 2012년작 세븐 사이코패스, 또 5년 뒤에 2017년작 3빌보드를 찍었습니다.
This was a weirder one because I had like the idea. I saw something similar to what we see on our billboards about 17 years ago, and it stuck in my mind the sort of rage and the pain that would have caused a person to put something like that up there. But it just kind of kept tapping at my brain, but I didn't do anything about it for about 10 years. But then when I kind of decided that it was a mother who'd put those messages up, calling out the cops as the original billboards did, everything kind of fell into place. But the script was written about 8 years ago. But I kind of didn't do anything with it for about 3 years, and then I sent it to Francis. I had this script, it was sort of ready to go about 7 years ago, and it didn't really change in the years in between. But if you sat with the script for that long, every line is there for good reason. I don't do too many drafts. I kind of plow through, and each day reread the last like 4 or 5 pages, slightly redraft those, and then continue on with the next day's pages, and just have that be the process. So by the end of it, it's the final. It's the first draft, and then I type it up, and that's all pen and paper, longhand, spiral, notepads. And then I'll type all that up, into final draft or whatever, and that's sort of second draft. Then I'll do notes on that, but that's pretty much it. Like sort of 2.5 drafts is where I leave it, because I'm very lazy. So I'll just that's it. I'll move on.
그리고 감독님은 여태까지 단편 영화를 포함한 모든 영화에 스튜디오의 그 어떤 개입도 없이 원하는 대로 만들어 오셨습니다. 네, 개사기.
I mean, it's not like we kind of went out and was searching for finance for ages. Right. It was more about making sure that the people who did come on board, or the people that we sent it to, would accept it completely in its own terms, would not give us notes about it, would accept the casting choices that we had in mind, and would leave us alone. And that's kind of hard to find, and there aren't that many studios or people that you can go to with that premise, with that idea.
People in theatre work with companies, and I think what Martin's doing as a film director is creating his own company.
One more time, guys, it's great.
It's his second film with Woody, it's his second film with Sam. There's a range of actors in this film, and Martin feels comfortable with them, he knows what they can do.
Martin loves being in a rehearsal room with actors on his plays. So I think that on films, when he casts people who have a theatre background, we have a shorthand.
Left hand until it's all done. But part of the thing with me is there should be no secondary characters. Like every smaller character should almost be like the star of their own film. And even if they've got two scenes, they should have just as many cool lines as the lead characters. And John Hawkes is a similar one. He only comes in for 2 scenes, but he has to blow us away. And in those 2 scenes, you have to see a life, the life that he had with Mildred, and he informs her history so much.
So how come a week before she died, she comes around asking if she can move in with me at my place? Because she couldn't stand the 2 of you bitching at each other no more, fighting with each other no more.
I don't believe you.
And I said, no, stay at home. Your mom loves you. I wish I hadn't. Because if I hadn't, she'd still fucking be here.
I don't believe you.
What are you saying to them about character?
For me, it's just about conveying the place I was in when I wrote that person and those lines, and then seeing where they can take that, with how they've lived their lives and how have acted before. I'm not really open about line changes, but in the that's the writer talking. But in the delivery, there's 100 ways a scene can go. No one changes Shakespeare, but there are so many different variations of Shakespeare, for the last 400 years or whatever. It's mostly about just getting great actors and seeing the depths to which they can take a place.
I was saying how great it is to be able to put words in actors' mouths, and you said it's even better to have an actor take it to another place.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you a little bit humble too, because if you think you're the bee's knees, and they go and prove that without them you're nothing really.
You fucking prick.
You do not call an officer of law a fucking prick in his own station house, Mrs. Hayes, or anywhere actually.
What's with the new attitude, Dixon? Your mama been coaching you?
No. My mama doesn't do that.
This was just literally Frances's character and just seeing how people react to that. So she was there, and then I had the idea of a cop who wasn't necessarily the bad guy, and then an underling who kind of was, and then just letting them react to her and her react to their reaction. And that's why I think it feels kind of organic as a film, is because you don't really know what she's going to do next, because I didn't know what she was going to do next.
Do you worry about structure at some point, or you just kind of...
No, I have maybe it's from the plays, but structure kind of naturally falls into place as I'm doing it. But this film that almost doesn't have a structure, it has kind of a first act thing, but then because something happens in the middle of the film where everything kind of goes to a non-usual, non-linear kind of place. And I think that's much more interesting than following, the usual three-act Hollywood.
여기서 잠깐 감독님이 얘기하는
the usual three-act Hollywood.
란 할리우드 상업 영화에서 흔히 발견할 수 있는 3악장으로 구성된 이야기 구조를 뜻하는데요. 영화 유튜버 Lessons from the Screenplay 채널의 The Avengers Defining an Act 편을 참고해서 간단하게 설명해 보도록 하겠습니다. 1악장은 상황 설명과 사건의 시작을 담당합니다. 로키가 나타나고 아이언맨은 사건을 인지하고 1악장의 끝으로 이야기는 캡틴이 헬리캐리어를 타는 시점부터 새로운 국면을 맞이합니다. 로키를 찾아서 붙잡아라. 2악장은 주로 주인공들이 난관에 부딪히며 목적 달성에 어려움을 겪는 구간입니다. 이 부분은 주로 두 파트로 나뉘는데요. 첫 파트는 주인공들이 서로 불협화음을 빚으면서도 로키를 붙잡으려는 부분입니다. 일단 로키를 붙잡았다. 그 중간쯤에 주인공들이 실드의 비밀을 알게 되며 멤버 간의 갈등이 고조되는데요. 로키를 붙잡았는데도 뭔가 느낌이 안 좋다. 그렇게 감정이 격앙된 순간 악당들에게 공격을 당하면서 로키를 놓치고 희생을 치르게 되며 팀은 뿔뿔이 흩어집니다. 이를 통해 주인공들은 다시 커다란 난관에 부딪히며 새로운 결단을 내려야 합니다. 우리 그만 싸우고 로키 잡으러 가자. 그렇게 2악장을 끝으로 주인공들의 갈등은 해소되고 서로 으쌰으쌰 모드로 들어가 3악장으로 돌입했을 때는 더 이상 서로 싸우지 않고 쎄쎄쎄하며 적을 물리칩니다. 우리가 어벤져스다. 이후는 에필로그 같이 영화 뒤처리가 되겠습니다. 대부분의 상업 영화들이 이 같은 도식화된 형식으로 제작되기 때문에 데이빗 핀처 감독님은
There are so many kind of techniques that have been inherited from both disciplines that don't necessarily apply to storytelling in the 21st century. We don't read newspapers the same way we used to. Why would we watch television the same way that we used? Why would we go to a theater and be aware of act breaks and here comes the complicator and now we're in the third act and now they got to tell me, I don't like signposting. I want to be lost. I want to be inside a story.
타란티노 감독님도
A good majority of movies that come out, all right, you pretty much know everything you're going to see in the movie by the first 10 or 20 minutes. Now that's not a story. A story is something that constantly unfolds. I'm not talking about like this quick left turn or a quick right turn or a big surprise. I'm talking about it unfolds.
봉준호 감독님도
이제 영화라는 틀 때문에 어쩔 수 없이 지난 영화 역사가 이제 100년이 넘다 보니까 아무리 창작자들이 새롭고 유니크한 것을 하려고 해도 어쩔 수 없이 관객들이 전반적으로 어떤 기대하는 것이 생기게 되는 것 같아요. 그 화면 밖에서 생겨진 어떤 거대한 기대라는 그 덩어리가 있는데 그것을 어떻게 깨트리거나 벗어나는가 그 부분은 어떻게 감독이나 배우들이 본능적으로 알고 있는 부분인 것 같아요. 그래서 사실 저는 시나리오 쓸 때나 스토리보딩 할 때 그냥 저의 직관에 따라서 합니다.
그리고 마틴 맥도날 감독님도 이렇게 얘기하시는 거죠.
And I think that's much more interesting than following, the usual three-act Hollywood archetype of.
So you do tend to have a giant punch in the face somewhere in the third act.
Yeah,
most of your work.
But that punch usually surprises me too. The thing that happens in the middle, I only realized could happen a few pages before it did happen. But there's something joyful, I think, in surprising yourself, because if you surprise yourself, then hopefully, you'll surprise your audience too.
So nobody's advising you during this process, I guess?
No, or at any stage.
Because you're just
that's the only thing
interested.
I structure in my life. No one can give me any shit about anything.
Buddhist psychopath. He doesn't believe in violence. Not what the fuck he's gonna do in the movie.
Maybe he could karate chop somebody. You know? So what happens to the 7 psychopaths at the end?
I don't know what happens to them at the start.
Oops.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
I'm writing the script. I'm not thinking about it in terms of visuals too much. It's usually in terms of character and dialogue and plot. Once it's finished, I usually it's a whole separate process to go away on my own and storyboard the whole thing. Literally every scene, even the just the talky scenes. You know, with this one, it feels like I could finally call myself a director almost, but I still. If I had anything on my passport or a badge, it would be writer. I think that's always the thing that's closest to my heart. Because it's something you can do every day, or you can, do on a train, or it's something you always carry with you as a badge of honor for me. Whereas director is just something you do every 4 years, and it's for a specific thing, But I lived the life of a writer. With each new thing, it felt like less crap than the one before. And then you kind of get to a stage after maybe 5 or 6 years where you're thinking actually, you'll come up with 1 or 2 things actually quite good. And even if it's just like a scene or a passage or like a page of dialogue, if you're very honest with yourself and compare it to the things that you like, if you get to a place where they both have equal measure, you can see that this is as good as that, then you're in a pretty good place.
기존에 약속드렸던 인물 중 한 명을 드디어 보여드립니다. 조금이나마 짐을 덜어낸 듯해 기분이 좋은데요. 이야, 아직도 코로나가 활개치고 있습니다. 내년 이맘때쯤 오늘을 돌아보면 맞아, 저 때는 코로나로 고생했었지 정도의 여유로 회상할 수 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 날씨는 아직도 여름이지만 달력은 이제 곧 가을이라고 합니다. 분명 이 영상을 업로드할 때쯤이면 가을이 느껴지지 않을까 해서 배경도 그쪽으로 했습니다만 하하하 별로네요. 2021년 마무리를 향해 달려가고 있는 것 같습니다. 본캐와 부캐 손을 잡고 열심히 뛰어볼 테니까요. 앞으로도 많은 관심과 응원 부탁드립니다.